Hey, Julie here, and today I'm going to show you something that could actually be quite a bit of fun to make and also use once it's made. And they're actually paper bead spinning tops. And check these out. I've made 25 of them so far, and I've got quite a few to actually finish, but let me show you how these work. They're amazing, actually. They spin really, really, really well. And you can get addicted to using these. And they take one sheet of cardstock to make, and there's actually quite a bit that goes into them, but it's a lot of fun. And on the tips here, there's actually a brad nail, and in here I stuck a toothpick and colored it to match the paper. Alright, so with all that said, and take a look at that. It spins really, really well. The reason why the brad nail is in the tip is so that you won't wear down the tip, because it is cardstock. It's made out of cardstock, and it makes it really spin really, really well. Alright, so let's get started. I'll tell you what you're going to need. Alright, so I have provided on my website at paperbeadcrafts.com the instructions and the template that you're going to need. And the template provided is going to be for machine cutting as well as cutting by hand. And so there'll be a PDF file, an SVG file, a file for the inspiration view from Puzzles. There is also a cutting file that is WPC, which I believe works with the Brother Scan and Cut. And the SVG files, those work with just about any of those machine cutting files. And then of course the PDF that you can print out and cut on your own. And the instructions has the list of supplies and tools that you're going to need. Of course, I didn't put on the sheet here, but you're going to need a pair of scissors as well. And on the back side, with all the step-by-step instructions, you're also going to get a strip cutting map. And basically what that is, it shows you what strips you're going to be using to make this top. And the strips that are marked with an E are actually extra. I just put those in there so I wouldn't waste any paper, and those will actually make beads like these. These are from the leftover strips that are marked in E. You have two long ones and two short ones. And so that, and you're also going to get scrap like this that you can turn into beads as well. This is the actual scrap. But the actual parts that you're going to use are this. This is what you're going to put together. And basically what it is, you get a central core. There's one piece of that. You're going to roll one of those. And then you're going to have two of each of the other size pieces. And they start at 5/8 inch and go all the way down to 1/8 inch at the wide end. And you're going to, the sheet of instructions will in detail tell you what is in the top in great detail. It tells you exactly what you're going to need and the measurements that you're going to need. And they're all based on the 11-inch length. Even though there is going to be an 1/8 inch margin all around your template, this one here I print on borderless. So it really eliminated my 1/8 inch margin all the way around. But there is an 1/8 inch margin on the sheet itself. If you go ahead and don't print borderless, you're going to get that margin. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and print out your template. Or go ahead and set up your cutting machine and download the cutting file that you're going to need, and just go ahead and cut that out and get your strips ready. And this is what you're going to get. You're going to need a 5/64 inch paper bead roller. I wouldn't use any other size, because this is actually designed for use with the little metal brads and the toothpicks. They fit perfectly. And you're going to need white glue. And any white PVA glue will work just fine. And you're going to need a needle tool to clean out the inside, the center of it, before you go ahead and string them on. That way it'll open it up for the toothpick and the brad nail. And you're going to need a glue palette, of course. And for rolling it, You're going to need patience. So let me go ahead and get started. You know how to roll paper beads before, but this is slightly different. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. This wide end is where you want to get started. And yes, it's a little long for the 5/64" paper bead roller, but like I said, I've made 25 of these so far, and it works just fine. Sometimes if your paper edge slips out of the paper bead roller, you can always fold up the bottom edge, get it loose, get it started, and if it won't stay put, go ahead and fold up that bottom edge and then continue. I've never had to throw away a piece while I was rolling these. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my glue ready. You're going to need a good dot, probably the size of a dime. And you're going to need a toothpick to apply it because it's the cleanest way that I found to do this. I wouldn't try using glue stick for this. You really want a strong glue. So go ahead and get started and find your slot and push it in as best you can and start rolling. Alright, so one thing that you want to make sure you're trying to achieve is you're trying to achieve a point at this end and a rounded end at this end. So don't try to center it. Make sure you have more of a point on this end. And just go ahead and roll it. And you're going to want to watch this top end. You do want it to be rounded a little bit. And at any point that you're comfortable, hang on to it for dear life and put some glue on it. All the way across. The more glue, well, the more that's covered with glue, the better, because it'll stay longer and stay better. And then just continue rolling. And you don't want to roll, you don't want too much of a rounded top, because you do still want the point on the bottom. That's the whole point of making the tops, is so that you have that pointy end. Okay, and you want to hold on to it for about 10 seconds for it to hold, and then you're going to go on to your next step. And I usually go ahead and put it down at this time, move my glue aside, and spread out my pieces. And so you want to make sure that the 1/8 inch are last. And then this here is 1/4 inch at the long end, or at the wide end, and an 1/8 inch at the narrow end. So you set that down. Then this one is 3/8 inch at the wide end, 1/4 inch at the narrow end. They're designed to butt up against each other and go smaller and smaller as you go. This one here is see, we've got 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch. This one's 1/2 inch at the wide end, 3/8 at the bottom. This one is 1/2 inch at the top, 3/8 at the bottom, and this one is a straight tube type of cut. It's 5/8 inch at both ends. That's what gives it that shape at the top, where it's straight on the top and then it goes down. And you're going to have a little bit of that at the bottom too. You're going to adjust it. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to get started with the second one. This one is different from the rest of them. What I usually do is I offset the top like this, about 1/2 inch. I pull this back and I apply glue for about 1 inch. And then I fold this back, line it up carefully, make sure it's even all the way down, and hold it there until it stays. Probably about 10 seconds. Okay, then the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to line one edge up with these, where it starts to go down into a point where your cone is, just above that. You want it to be about 1/4 inch down from that edge. And you're going to go ahead and hold it there a few seconds, just to get it started and to make sure that it stays put. Then you're going to start rolling it up. And I usually like to flip it back so I can see what I'm doing. Hold it there. I've had a couple on me that gave way a little bit, so I have to make sure I hold on to it until it stays. And then you can start rolling it up. And you want to do it as tight as you can. And you want to do this section as evenly as you can. And don't do any gluing until you've reached the end. So that way, when you're done rolling up all your strips onto it, you can adjust it as you need to. And what you're going to do when you get about an inch, inch and a half away from the end, you're going to go ahead and put glue on it. And go ahead and finish rolling. And you're going to end up with the second end popping up, which is expected. You're going to expect that. And then you're going to go ahead and put glue on that section and lay that down. And you want to hold it for about 10 seconds. That way it will stay put and you're ready to apply the next strip. And what I'm going to do after I get this second set of strips on there is I'll continue rolling them until I get to the very last smallest strips. And then I'll do, you know, most of it off camera. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up one of the strips, set that down. I'm going to apply glue to the top 1/4 inch or so, maybe 1/2 inch. And you're going to butt that up against the edge of a previous strip. And you want to center it as best you can. And since you're going to be adjusting these, go ahead and try to roll these as centered as possible, because you're going to adjust it at the very end. And then let that sit, grab the second strip, apply glue to the 1/2 inch, and you just want a thin layer. You don't need too much. Okay, then there's also that second edge from that second strips. Go ahead and butt that up. Make sure you're matching the wide end to this end. It's 5/8 to 5/8. All right, and then you're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and roll this up on camera. It's going to take me just a few seconds here. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes actually to completely make one of these, roll up one of these tops. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put the glue on. Continue rolling it, hold it down, let go of my thumb here, let it pop up for the second strip, put some glue on there, completely cover that end. Now if it's not perfectly centered all the way, remember you're going to be adjusting this at the end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work on this set, and this set, and I'll return when I get back to this set. Okay, so I'm at the part where I'm about to start with my narrowest strips, the 1/8 inch, and I'm going to adjust it now a little bit, just to center it a little bit. And with the 1/8 inch strips, you actually want to make sure that you glue completely all the way around as you go. This is a stabilizing section. It just locks everything in place. And basically you're going to butt it up against the previous strip just like you did before. Hold it there for a few seconds and then add the other one. This can get a little bit tricky and it's a little bit time consuming. It's the section that takes the longest because you have to glue it as you go. And it's going to take me just a moment here. So if you have scrap paper, I think I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to try an experiment. I haven't tried this before. I'm going to go ahead and apply glue to quite a bit of it. Maybe it'll go faster. I just haven't done it because I'd be afraid that the glue would start drying up on me. Okay, so there's that section. And then there's this section on the other strip. Okay, so start gluing it down. keeping it centered the best you can. Alright, so when it doesn't stick anymore, I've ran out of glue, so I'm going to have to put some more on. I suppose maybe glue stick before you even start this section might work. I just haven't tried it. I really like using the white PVA glue. PVA is just a type of glue. It's, you know, your standard white all-purpose glue, school glue. Comes in different brands. And this is, you know, while I was making the 25 that I've made, I was watching Netflix. And so this is definitely one of those projects that you can do in front of Netflix. Especially on something that you've already watched before. So you don't have to look up at it all the time. Because you do want to keep your eye on what you're doing. And because this does take time, it takes a little bit of concentration. And you don't want to go off kilter. Alright, it's going to take me just a few more minutes here to get this down. Almost there. Now let me flip that over and I'll put the rest of the glue on this end. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this one up. Then I'll show you what we're going to do next. 'Cause I actually like to, when I'm glazing them, I like to dip them into 2 coats of PC Petrifier and 4 coats of what I use right now is liquid laminate, but Vibrance would work just as well. I have a half a gallon left of my liquid laminate, so I'm going to use that up before I buy more of anything else. Okay, so I'm done rolling it up, and my narrow strip is centered to my work, so I'm going to carefully pull this off because it's adjustable. I'm going to carefully put my fingers down where the tip is and pull it off. Okay, and I'm going to poke in there with my needle tool that I made to clean that up. That opens it up. And then to make it look like the others, see how the ridge here is kind of like in the top 1/3. That's what I'm going to adjust it for. And I do that just by pushing on it. And it does take practice. Like I said, I've made 25 so far, and I have some more, you know, some final touches to do, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so that one's ready to go. It's ready to string, and I have 5 here that I'm going to go ahead and string to get them ready for glazing. And I'm going to pull out my 50-pound test fishing line and pull out probably a little bit more than a foot. And tape that back up. And I like to use crimp beads to form my loop. So we're going to need crimp beads. And I'm going to need flat nose pliers. And I'm using a 3mm crimp bead. They're plenty big for what this is, you know, it works good for this. I wouldn't use them for jewelry though, because they're a little too big for that. Okay, then you want a loop that's going to be able to fit on your hanging rack, your drying rack, and just flatten it best you can. And then you don't need waste beads on these. Just go ahead and string them. And it gets them ready for glazing. Like I said, 2 coats of PC Petrifier, 4 coats of either Vibrance or the liquid laminate or some other water-based sealer that you want to use. You want a good tough finish. You could even brush on the poly resin, resin. It's not necessary, but it would make it last forever. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put the crimp bead on the other end, make my loop, and I'm giving it some slack so that I can separate them on my fishing line here. Okay, so that's that. Those are ready to glaze. And now on to the next step, which is once they're all glazed, you're ready to finish them up. So I'm going to put these aside. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you how to do the nail and the tip. So that'll be next. Let's put these away so they don't get dumped. And I have some all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take off one of my loops. I like to pull it until I can't anymore, and then I trim it off. Eventually this will get too short and I won't be able to use it anymore. But I'm going to go ahead and take these out. Okay, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to grab your 1-inch brad nails. And you can get these at the hardware store. They're 1 inch long and they're basically little tiny nails. And you definitely want nails and not finished brads. You want nails because you want the head. And what I do is I open up my E6000, and I like to use these tiny tubes because there's little to no waste. When I had bought a large tube and threw about half of it away because I had it so long that it got all gummy and I couldn't use it. So I put my nail right in, swirl it around to put some of the glue on it, and then I tuck it up inside. And you might want to push it down on your work surface, and you're going to want a paper towel handy to wipe off the excess. But that's it for the tip. Allow it to dry about 15-20 minutes before you actually go ahead and use it. And then once you do all that, let's do that to another one. Stick that up in there. Let it hold there. And some of the holes might be a little small. You definitely want to push down on it. Some will be a little big because it's not perfect. Okay, and grab another one. There, okay, that one's done. And then one more. Stick that in there. All right. And make sure you're putting it in the tip, not in the top, because you're going to do something else with the top. Okay, so those are ready for their tops. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use toothpick. And believe it or not, you can use one toothpick for every 2 tops because you need the pointy end. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to stick the end of the toothpick into the E6000 and you're going to insert it as far as you can into the top of the top. And you want to let that sit for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that to all of these that I have sitting right here. Put the E6000 in and stick it in the top as far as it will go. Alright, E6000. Stick it in there. One more. Oh, I'm going to do a couple more. So I've already used the other end of these toothpicks for some of them. So I'm going to pull out some fresh new ones. I actually have not done this part to all of them. I've only done this part to 5 of them. And looks like I need another toothpick, so I'll grab another one. Stick that in here. Alright, so I'm going to let these sit about 15 minutes and then I'll go on to the next step. Okay, so it's been 15 minutes and I am back with my markers to get ready for the next step. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our tops with the toothpick sticking out at the end. We're going to grab some wire cutters and we're going to just go ahead and reach in and cut the toothpick off. And if it's not quite 100% dry, that's fine. But you're going to do that to all of them. Go ahead and just cut them off. I like to work in an assembly line type of fashion where I do various steps all at once. Alright, almost there. As close to the top as you can. You want to cut off as much of the toothpick as you can. Okay, and you're probably thinking to yourself, that tip doesn't look very good. How do you make them like the other ones? You know, the pretty ones? Like this? Well, that's what I'm going to show you next. Okay, so go ahead, and these toothpicks are now no longer good unless you're, used only one end of it. Then you can reuse the other side. And the next step is you're going to sand down the toothpick that's sticking out the end with an emery board or sandpaper. But the emery board works just fine. In fact, I'm going to try to trim off just a little bit more off of this one. If I can grab it. There we go. Okay, so go ahead and sand it down till it's rounded. And this could take a little while. Again, this is one of those tasks that you can go ahead and do in front of, movies or Netflix or something, TV. And you want to go ahead and sand all of them. And maybe it's easier doing this, however is easy for you. And to me, I find an emery board is just fine for this step. It gets it nice and smooth. The trick is you want to make it round at the top. You don't want it to be any sharp edges, and you don't really want it sticking out. You want it to be rounded as a continuation of the very tip of your top. Okay, so that looks pretty good. A little bit more. And you're going to do this to all of them. But for time's sake, I'm going to go on to the next step. Okay, once you've sanded all of them and you like the way it looks, kind of brush it off a little bit, clothing or whatever, and pick out a marker that you're going to use. This one happens to be mostly red, so I'm going to use a red marker. It has to be a permanent marker, like an alcohol-based marker. And just go ahead and color the toothpick. And do that with all of them. Okay, then once you have all those done, the next step is you want to seal the marker, and you want to seal the toothpick so it's nice and shiny like these finished ones. It's actually sealed pretty well, and it enhances the color of the Sharpie. So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take some diamond glaze. I happen to have Judikin's diamond glaze from when I used to use it for my beads. And so I'm just going to use a small dab of that. And this is the point where you would want to go ahead and do this to all of them first, get them ready. But for camera's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and do this one. And you want to put the smallest dab that you can on your little palette, and you want to actually go ahead and dip this into it. There's no need to pull out a brush or anything like that. Just dip it in there and let it drip. And one way, in order to be able to keep it upright, you can use an egg carton to put it in. and just slide it down in there and leave it alone. And let it sit in there until it's dry, about 25 minutes or so. And that's that. That's how you go ahead and make these little spinning tops. And I'm going to go ahead and finish all of these. But I wanted to thank you for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And also don't forget to visit paperbeadcrafts.com. The link for this particular project, which includes the templates, will be provided for you in the comments, and well, actually in the description. And if you want to see more of my videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And until next time, have a great day. Goodbye.